In my last video on Ezekiel 38 and 39, I asked the question of who is Gog, and could he be the prince of Rosh? That's what I grew up hearing. So we talked about that, and now I want to get into this idea that God is going to put a hook in his jaw and bring him out and all of the people with him, and they're going to come into the land of Israel. But notice what God says here. He says, be ready and keep ready, you and all your hosts that are assembled with you, and be a guard for them. After many days you'll be mustered. In the latter years you will go against the land that is restored from war, the land whose people were gathered from many peoples upon the mountains of Israel, which had been a continual waste. Its people were brought out from the peoples, and now dwell securely, all of them. There's a lot in that verse right there. So Gog is going to come in the latter days. Ezekiel is writing probably about 560 BC, somewhere in there. And he's now talking about something that is going to come in the far future, in the latter years. And Gog is going to come to the land that's restored from war. Well, there's a couple different places that we could look at. It could be right after the Judeans went back to the land and they settled there. But though we have a few incidents of wars, we have Antiochus Epiphanes who comes in, and he was certainly a problem, but nothing like what the text goes on to say about earthquakes and hail, so it doesn't really fit. Well, then we have the time of when the Romans came in. But the people by then had long been established. They had not recently come back from war, so that doesn't seem to fit either. And again, we don't have any kinds of large hailstones. We don't have this massive earthquake that's happening. We don't have God coming and fighting on behalf of Israel. In fact, just the opposite. We see the Jews lost their homeland at that point, and that's when they were truly scattered. So what would be the only other time that this could be fulfilled? Well, the only other time is May 14th, 1948. And notice what starts to come into focus when we understand that date. It says that they were gathered from many peoples upon the mountains of Israel. Well, that is very true because the Jewish people had been disseminated throughout the world, dispersed, known as the diaspora. And this monumental moment happened when they came back into their homeland. They became a nation once again, May 14th, 1948. Now, what happened just before that? Well, of course, World War II, and we have the Holocaust. And it says that this is a land whose people have been restored from war. In the Hebrew, it actually says mecherev, from the sword. Now, 6 million Jews were slaughtered. It was a genocide. If that doesn't count as the sword, I honestly don't know what would really count. That is the worst, most atrocious execution of a people group that has ever happened. Even as Hitler was about to commit suicide, in his last will and testament, he said, carry on the fight the Zionists, kill the Jews wherever you find them. So this war was very much against the Jewish people. They were not ancillary. They were considered enemy number one. And 3 years after that, they come back into the land. They become a nation. I think that is the absolute best fit. So that means if that is the case, then we are now in those latter years where this people has been brought back. And it says that the land has been a continual waste. I did another video where I show that, yes, indeed, the land went 660,000 days without any water. Mark Twain wrote about it. Rabbi Nachmanides in around 1000 AD, who said that the land was indeed a continual waste. And of course, it would have been so. In fact, he says it's really a good thing because our enemies just can't seem to live in this land. And so this is a proof that God is going to restore it one day to us. And then the last part, it says, now all of them dwell securely. Now, securely is used in a couple different ways. It's the word batach. You can be secure in a fortress. It doesn't mean that there are always unicorns and rainbows outside, but you can live in a secure place. We have things called secure rooms. We have things called safes. And the whole idea is that whatever or whoever is in that place is relatively safe. Now, Israel, are they relatively safe? Indeed, they are. In fact, they're the safest that they have ever been in the last 2,000 years. Ask any Israeli if they would rather be in their land with their own army or to be still outcasts in the diaspora. Well, they'll tell you that they very much prefer to be where they are. And for many Israelis, they've gotten used to some of the shenanigans that happen and they consider to be part of life. In fact, when I lived there in the late 90s, when I went to the Hebrew University, I was amazed that everybody was carrying a cell phone. Well, that was their way of keeping in touch with each other because yes, car bombs did happen and other things happened, and they wanted to make sure that everybody was safe. And so they felt quite safe. Now, sometimes Americans say, oh, that's not safe, but they consider themselves to be quite safe. So again, I think that really does fit the bill incredibly well. So we know it's not Russia. We know that this is going to happen in the latter days, and that latter day event seems to have begun May 14th, 1948. God goes on, you will advance coming on like a storm. You will be a cloud covering the land, you and all your hordes and many peoples with you. Thus says the Lord God, on that day thoughts will come into your mind and you will devise an evil scheme. These evil schemes reminds us of Daniel chapter 8, verse 24. His power shall be great, but not by his own power, and he shall cause fearful destruction, and he shall succeed in what he does, and destroy mighty men who are the saints. By his cunning he shall make deceit prosper under his hand, and in his own mind he shall become great. Without warning he shall destroy many, and he shall even rise up against the prince of princes, and he shall be broken, but by no human hand. Gog, the beast, this little horn in Daniel chapter 8, are exactly the same person. Some people have asked me, why are you suggesting that the events of Ezekiel 38 and 39 and Revelation, Armageddon, the final beast, Antichrist are all the same? Because I think they're all the same. Now, you may disagree with me, but that's okay. That's the joy of Bible prophecy. But having looked at these for many, many years, I think that we're looking at the same basic scenario, the same basic individual. I'm going to share with you who I think Gog is when we get to verse 17. So hold on for that. And he says back in Ezekiel 38, to seize, spoil, and carry off plunder, to turn your hand against the waste places that are now inhabited. Once again, exactly 660,000 days it did not rain in Israel. We have the reports of Mark Twain, of Rabbi Nachmanides, who are saying that basically nobody was living in the land. There were a few people here and there, for sure, but there were no major civilizations that had planted themselves in the Promised Land, in the Holy Land, in Palestine, as it was called for nearly 2,000 years. The people who were gathered from the nations, who have acquired livestock and goods, who dwell at the center of the earth. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all its leaders will say to you, have you come to seize spoil? Have you assembled your host to carry off plunder, to carry away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to seize great spoil? The leaders of the earth are going to ask, why are you here? What are your purposes for coming to Israel? Now, Sheba, Dedan, those are somewhere in the Middle East. Could be Saudi Arabia, maybe some other places. Tarshish is probably Spain. A big swath of the governments of the earth are going to be asking, what are you doing here? Then it says, therefore, son of man, prophesy and say to Gog, thus says the Lord God, on that day when my people Israel are dwelling securely, will you not know it? So this tells us, first of all, that this has to be something in the latter days. It's people who were brought back from the sword, as we've already seen. This makes perfect sense after World War II, when 6 million Jewish people were slaughtered in the worst genocide of all human history. And now they're living securely. It means that by and large, they're feeling quite secure. These are the people that were brought back from the sword that God has established in the land. Now, I've talked about 1948 as being a very important part of prophecy. And the Jewish people, their return to the land is huge. But if you've been keeping up with my research and my videos, you know that I wrote God's Divorce, and I talk about the house of Judah and the house of Israel. I believe that is a huge missing link. We have forgotten about the house of Israel. I'm not going to go into that in this video. If you want to check those things out, please get the book or check out some of my other videos. The return of the house of Judah, the Jewish people, into the land of Israel was a major milestone, but it's not the end of it. And we're going to see more about the house of Israel when we get to Ezekiel 39. Hey, if you love what I'm doing here, consider becoming a member on my channel, or maybe a member on Patreon, or check out my books on Amazon.com. If you want to dig deeper into this topic, do check out Corrupting the Image Volume 3.